Welcome to Life Chapter Stories channel. If this moved you, please like, share and subscribe. It truly helps us keep telling stories that matter. Now sit back. This one begins in the dark and rises into light. Anita boarded the wrong plane, blood still fresh on her lip, her daughter in her arms, and no idea where they were headed. She only knew one thing: she couldn't stay. Seat 17A, a bruised woman, a sleeping child, and silence. She wasn't supposed to be seen. The wine glass shattered before Anita could flinch. Jason's slap had come. Fast, familiar, numbing. "I told you, open your mouth again, and I was just, don't lie to me," he hissed. "You're nothing without me." Frozen near the fridge, towel clenched in one hand, Anita tasted blood. Then, a voice. Small, fragile. "Mommy." Sophia. Tiny, wide-eyed, clutching her teddy bear. That look. It broke something inside Anita that had already been cracked for years. Jason's eyes narrowed. "Go back to bed." No shouting, just the blade of his voice. Sophia turned away, lip trembling, and disappeared. Anita sank to the floor. Her skin stung, her heart numb, but it was the words that hurt most. "You're nothing. No one else will want you, not anymore." But the man in D. 17B noticed her anyway. She rose on instinct, not strength. In the bathroom mirror, she didn't recognize herself. Not the face, not the eyes. But deep beneath the bruises, something sparked. Clarity. "I can't do this anymore." Behind the towels, a shoebox. Inside, a burner phone, passport, cash, birth certificate. Her emergency exit. She packed in silence. Clothes, snacks, papers, her daughter. In the moonlight, Anita lifted Sophia. "We're going on an adventure," she whispered. "Like the zoo, even better." She walked past the family car, traceable, took the long way to the bus stop. Every footstep sounded like a scream. Every gust of wind felt like breath on her neck. But she kept walking. A late-night bus, a downtown train station, dawn creeping in. Anita paid cash. Always cash. Always forgettable. The airport was crowded, anonymous, perfect. A one-way flight to Seattle. She gave a fake name. No questions asked. In the terminal, she collapsed into her seat, wrapping her daughter in a star blanket. "Mama, are we going to live in the clouds?" "Yes, baby, for a little while." He slid into the seat beside her. Sharp jaw, soft eyes, dark slacks, charcoal sweater. He noticed the bruise. Didn't ask. "She sleeps like my niece used to," he said gently. All curled. Up like a puppy. Anita said nothing. But her walls thinned. His presence was quiet, steady. And for the first time in 5 years, as the plane rose into the clouds, Anita felt something uncoil inside her. Not safety. Not yet. But freedom. And the fragile, flickering beginning of something like hope. She studied him when he wasn't watching. The angles of his face were clean, but his posture was at ease. One hand curled around a coffee cup, the other resting on a leather notebook across his lap, half filled with tight, elegant script. He wasn't a tourist, not a suit either. Somewhere, in the in-between. Then without warning, he closed the notebook and tucked it away, shifting slightly toward her. "I'm sorry," he said, softer now. "Didn't mean to interrupt. You just looked like someone carrying too much." The words caught her off balance. Her breath hitched. Reflexively, she turned back to the window, reaching for detachment. But there was something in his voice. Not pity, recognition, like he'd worn the same weight. "Work trip?" he asked gently. A rope ladder in case she wanted out of the moment. "Yes," she lied, steadier than she felt. "Same," he replied. "Investor meeting. Almost didn't. Bored. But sometimes stepping onto the plane's the hardest part." She didn't answer, but the words echoed. The leap, the choice, the escape. After a long silence, she murmured, "I don't usually talk to strangers." He gave a faint smile. "Fair. I'm not usually worth talking to, yet here we are." That pulled a ghost of a grin from her. Not laughter, but close. He extended a hand, not reaching across her space, just resting it lightly on the shared armrest. "Daniel." She stared at it, didn't take it. But she said, Anita. Nice to meet you, Anita. As if sensing she needed quiet, he leaned back, slid on headphones, and disappeared into the hush of altitude. Still, Anita watched him. Something about his stillness held her, quiet, composed. Not like the men Jason surrounded himself with, loud, hungry, always chasing the next win. Daniel didn't seem to be chasing anything. He looked like he'd already let something go. When the cabin dimmed and the hum of the plane lulled most passengers to sleep, Anita stayed awake. She sat motionless, eyes shut, but thoughts racing. Not just about bruises or fear, about what it meant to sit beside someone who didn't make her shrink, just a seat assignment, just a flight. But something had cracked open, not quite hope. Something thinner, like breath after drowning. The overhead lights glowed faint blue and amber, shadows flickering across resting faces. Anita sat upright, alert. Sophia lay curled beside her, warm and trusting, her small hands locked around a worn bear. Anita glanced sideways. Daniel's headphones were in his lap now, forgotten. He wasn't sleeping. His eyes were open, unfocused, fixed on something far off. "You ever feel like your body's here?" he asked suddenly, "but your mind's still trapped somewhere else?" She opened her eyes. "Every day." He nodded slightly, as if she'd confirmed something he already knew. "What do you do?" she asked. He rubbed a thumb across a calloused knuckle. "Run a company. Data security." She raised a brow. "Doesn't fit." He smirked. It didn't. Used to be a mechanic. Fix things. Then the rest just evolved. His words were polished. Careful. Not secretive. Just selective. Like he'd learned not to hand his story to people who'd twist it. "You travel a lot." "Too much. Half the time I forget what city I'm flying into." "That doesn't sound healthy." "It's not," he said simply. "But it keeps me out of the places I should have left behind." "Where are you coming from?" He hesitated. "Somewhere I should have left sooner." A truth disguised as a shrug. Anita looked at him. She had 100 stories ready, safe, practiced lies, but none of them held up under that gaze. "Same," she whispered. He didn't ask more. Didn't glance at the bruise or the tremble in her hands. He just nodded. "Leaving's the hardest part." Her voice cracked. "You've left too." He met her eyes fully this time, grey-blue, softened by cabin light. "My father taught with fists, not words," he said quietly. "I left at 16, slept in my car, got lucky when someone handed me a job in a garage." She held her breath. He looked too put together for that kind of past. "Sometimes it takes years," he added, "to stop thinking you had it coming." Her throat tightened. "I used to tell myself it wasn't that bad, that I just had to love harder." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, not interrupting, just listening. "He'd hurt me, then apologize. With silence, with gifts. And I'd believe it was just the messy kind of love, the kind that needed patience." She blinked back tears. But then Sophia started watching. Daniel reached into his pocket, placed something on the armrest. A small weathered coin, not money, a token. One side held a compass, the other a single word. "Forward." "I carry it to remind myself," he said. "The only direction that matters is away from what broke you." She traced the edge with her fingertip. She didn't ask where he got it. She didn't have to. "Do you think people like us get a second shot?" Daniel looked at her, then at Sophia, still sleeping beside her. "I think you already took yours." She closed her eyes. Outside, the sky was softening, the first thin light of morning leaking into the clouds, and for the first time in years she believed him. Careful with her words, she studied her hands, pale, nails trimmed too close, knuckles still slightly puffy from clutching the stair rail. Too tightly the night she ran. "I used to be loud," she murmured. "Funny, I was training to be a photojournalist. Thought I'd travel, capture stories. I loved faces, honest ones." She let out a bitter smile. "Then I met someone who didn't want me to be visible." Daniel didn't speak, just listened, fully there. He was charming at first, held doors, claimed. He was different. Jason always said he wanted a strong woman, But he really just wanted control. Her tone didn't tremble. Not anymore. She had recited this truth too many times. Speaking it wasn't the battle. It was believing it. It started small. He'd read my texts, criticized my friends. Then the bruises, the ones I could cover. Then the ones I couldn't. Daniel's expression didn't shift. No pity, just witness. I tried to leave once. Sophia was still an infant. He caught me before I made it to the bus. Said he'd end his life if I didn't come back. Her grip tightened around the mug. He brought roses the next day. Took me out, said he lost control. He always lost control, and I always forgave him. Daniel's voice was low. Sometimes forgiveness is how you survive. Anita blinked. He leaned in. My mom stayed with my dad until she didn't. You know what changed it? One day he hit me. I was 10. She saw the mark, packed our things. We left. $40 and a dying station wagon. Anita's chest tightened. A flash of Sophia's face, frightened in the hallway, whispering, Mommy, I think, Daniel continued, it's easier to forgive pain when it's yours, but when it touches someone you love, everything shifts. Anita's voice was faint. Is your mom okay now? Daniel smiled gently. She gardens, argues with the neighbor's dog, still leaves me voicemails twice a week. Yeah, she's okay. Anita's lips curled, not fully, but real. A tired, tentative smile. Then she asked, Who are you? Really, Daniel? He didn't seem caught off guard, just thoughtful. Told you, I run a tech company, Sylvan Systems. We build encryption software, mostly for hospitals and non-profits. Boring stuff, unless you're into cybersecurity. She gave him a look. You don't speak like a CEO. Didn't grow up like one, he replied. First job was changing oil. Second, installing servers in a college I never even attended. She tilted her head. So why start a company? Because I wanted to create something that protected people. Their data, their silence, their safety. Anita nodded slowly. You're trying to stop people from being hurt. His eyes locked onto hers. I'm trying to give people choices. The air between them shifted. Warm, not romantic yet, but connected. Real, grounded in shared recognition. From the bed, Sophia stirred, murmuring, Mama. Anita crossed the room in 2 steps. I'm here, sweetheart. Sophia blinked. I dreamt about stars. Anita kissed her forehead. That sounds beautiful. Sophia rubbed her eyes, glancing past her mother. Daniel stood, coat in hand. He gave her a soft wave. Hi again, Sophia. The little girl waved sleepily. Anita walked him to the door. He paused. I'm grabbing dinner. I'll bring something back if you're still here. She hesitated, then said quietly, We will be. Daniel nodded, a silent promise, and left. Anita leaned against the closed door, not in fear, in something close to relief. She sat by the window. Outside, the rain turned the city into blurred colors, blue, gray, soft gold. Below, cars moved like beetles, their lights slicing through fog. 3 days had passed since she arrived. 3 days of breath held quiet, warm breakfasts, coloring books. Daniel had visited, not as a rescuer or ghost, but as something solid, kind. Anita hadn't decided on the future. She only knew what she couldn't return to. She turned her real phone over in her palm. Not the burner, the actual one, the one she'd retrieved from a trash bin before boarding. It remained off, disconnected. Yet she turned it on. Why? Curiosity? Guilt? Hope? Messages flooded the screen. Dozens from Jason, voicemails, 2 from her sister, 1 unknown number, likely a lawyer. And then the line at the bottom, police report filed. Missing person. Her breath caught. He had reported her missing. Him, the man who'd once broken her ribs for leaving a door unlocked. He who forced her to the floor for withholding sex. Now playing victim, she reached for the burner phone. Her fingers hovered over Daniel's number. She didn't want to involve him more, but he already knew. And he had offered help, with no conditions. She pressed call. 15 minutes later, Daniel stepped into the room, rain still in his hair, expression unreadable, but focused. She handed him the real phone. He read through the messages without asking. Permission, his brow furrowed. He's staging a game, Daniel said. Classic tactic. Leverage the system, white collar, no visible trail. I never filed anything, Anita murmured. No ER visits. I was too afraid. Daniel sat beside her. That can change. She shook her head, breath catching. If I go to the police... Now he'll say I kidnapped her. He'll spin it, he always does. Daniel tapped the phone thoughtfully. You don't start with the police, you start with a lawyer, a strong one. I can't afford that. I can. Anita stared at him. I won't fight your battle, Daniel said. But I'll stand with you while you do. That's all. A steady light while... You're swinging in the dark. It didn't break her, it unburdened her, just a little. The next day they entered a grey building. Inside, a woman named Melissa Ortiz greeted them. Sharp, professional. She didn't flinch when Anita said, I need help leaving an abuser. Melissa was precise. First, we establish records, medical, witnesses, screenshots, emails, anything that proves a pattern. Anita handed her the burner phone. It held images, time-stamped bruises, an audio clip of Jason shouting. Melissa nodded. It's a start. Protection order. Custody filing. After the meeting, Anita trembled. In the elevator, she looked at Daniel. Do you ever wonder if we're allowed to win? Daniel didn't smile, but his answer was steady. Don't wonder, no. That night, Anita didn't sleep. Every sound was a threat. At 3 a.m., the hotel phone rang. She froze, it rang again. She answered, breathing. Then Jason's voice. Silk and poison. So you're alive. You'll regret this. You made me look like a fool. You took my child. She hung up, shaking, quietly, sobbing so Sophia wouldn't hear. The sound that escaped her was raw, a grief-rage hybrid. A knock, she opened the door. Daniel stood there, already holding a spare key. Figured he'd find a way to reach you. She didn't ask how he knew. He stepped in, sat by the window, didn't try to comfort her. Just kept vigil. Anita slid down the wall and rested her head. The storm had followed her, but now she wasn't alone. Spring in Seattle crept in gently. Cherry blossoms stretched pale arms toward clouded skies. The air stayed grey, but softer. 3. Months had passed. 3 months of courtrooms, legal battles, and Jason painting her as hysterical. Melissa dismantled his image with documents, recordings, bruises, truth. And the judge's ruling came not with applause, but with authority. Anita Thomas granted full custody. Restraining order, permanent. Sophia's name changed. Anita's maiden name. A new beginning.